love tricks to trust fund freaks, bathroom stalls and penthouse
Okay, we're back.
suites.
Now we're going to get started on the finishing portion of the rod build. And this is a process that where Murphy's Law, if it can come into play, it will. If your wife's going to decide to set the smoke alarm off, it's going to happen during the finish phase. If your relatives are going to call and want to talk to you urgently, it's going to happen now. If work's going to call, you name it, it happens. Just roll with the flow and go with it, and try to get a process down that you're comfortable with, that you're going to get good results from. This is a process that I go through that I am very meticulous in how I do everything with regards to the finish. It's got to be the same every single time. That way I know I get the same results and get good results. So what we're going to do is go through how I do my finish. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and that's totally understandable. What I do first is I have some heaters that are for candles. You can buy at any craft store. They're for scented candles. They put candles on them, and then they heat up and smell good throughout the house. I use those for my finish. It warms up the bottles and gets the finish to a nice liquid consistency, a little bit thinner, and that's what I'm looking for. So I get my finish mixed up in equal parts. I go 6 cc's at a time on these stand-up rods, and I actually use a larger brush than some people will. But so I get my finish mixed up, get it ready to go. And what I need to do is, with every guide foot, I'm going to concentrate on the tops of the guide feet first. So I'll zoom in and just show you a little bit where we're concentrating and the importance of it. You can see on this guide right here, I've got two areas. I've got this area right here and this area right here. There's a cave that forms between the thread and the guide foot. What I need to do is make sure I get finished through my thread down into those valleys, that cave, all the way around that guide foot. That's what's going to cement that guide foot to the rod. So what I do is I've got a drying motor here that's got a slip clutch on it. So I can stop this at any point and do what I need to do, and then it'll keep turning. So I always apply the finish with a motor spinning the rod to get the finish so it starts laying down level. But what I do first is I go over each guide wrap and I apply a liberal amount and get it onto the finish, because I want it to start soaking in through those layers of thread. This is where your rod will be a success or a failure, is with the finish. So, and we'll come back to those in the end. All I do is I put it on and just let it start soaking. I don't dabble with it in any way, shape, or form at this point. So I go through each guide foot, applying that finish and getting it to soak in. I'm going to do the same thing all the way up the rod, and then I'll come back down and we'll address this again as I'm going through the process. Okay, I'm back. What I've done is I've gone all the way up the rod with my first coat of finish. I haven't touched anything on these guides yet to get them to get the finish a little squared out. But what I wanted to show you first was what exactly you're going to see after your first coat of finish. You can see air bubbles. You can see open spots where the finish hasn't, there's not enough finish. That's actually spots where the finish is soaked in. That's what I want to see. So you're going to see up next to this guide foot up here, you're going to see spots where the thread is exposed. You're going to see spots down in here where the thread is exposed. That's what I want to see. I want to know that that finish is actually soaked in and gotten into the thread all the way down to the finish. So what I'm going to do now at this point is, and I'm going to try and do this so that you can see it as well. But what I'm going to do is hit this with a torch. I have a regular alcohol or a regular butane torch that you can buy at Harbor Freight or any of those places. But what I'll do is I'll hit that lightly and just beat over it a little bit with this torch. That's going to knock any of the air bubbles out that I do get. So you want to be able to go through everything and go through the entire rod. Keep hitting it with the torch, but you don't want to beat on it a lot. You just want to be able to hit it gingerly so that you can get that finish to move and go onto the rod. So after I've gotten the first coat on, I'm going to go over any bare spots that I do have and put another light layer of finish. I want this finish to soak in, but I don't want to have so much finish on it that it's going to glob on the rod. This is going to have a nice glass finish when it's done. So that, to me, that's important. This is the drywall of the solid foundation house that we've built. So I want to take my time at this process, but you are under the gun a little bit because this finish will start to harden and get a little thick in about 3 minutes. If that happens, you can hit it with a torch a little bit, and it'll loosen it up and get flowing again. But you can see I take that torch and go over it and just bake it a little bit, and it knocks all the air bubbles out and gets it nice and smooth. So I'm going to pan out a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing on the other parts of this guide, and we'll work our way up the rod. And I'm taking careful attention here not to get it in any of the rollers. I want to keep that very clear. So get it onto the rod. And my basic goal here with this first coat is to get it on and let it level out itself. I used to use Flex Coat, and then I switched to another brand and didn't have good results with it. And now I'm using Threadmaster and Half Coat. Those are by far the two best for the way I do my finishes. So everybody has their personal preference as to what they want to use. Alright, so I've gotten it to the point now where it's fairly level, and what I'm going to do is move over to this guide and start doing the abalone veneer and getting a nice solid finish on it. What I'm doing now is concentrating on getting it underneath of the guide feet. This is where the slip clutch really comes into play and is very handy because I can just stop the rod, get my finish where I need it underneath of that guide foot, closing up the caves that I have on either side, and you're going to find that you will have some air bubbles there, which is good because that means that the finish is soaking into the thread and pushing the air out of that area under the guide foot. So you just keep putting finish on, concentrating on those corners. I'm not really worried that much about 100% coverage at this point because I am going to be putting another coat of finish on tomorrow morning. So all I want to do now is make sure that structurally everything is sound and everything is covered. So what I've done here is put some more finish on. So what I want to do again is go back over it, knock the air bubbles out of it, as well as loosen it up a little bit so that it flows and rolls around the rod. This motor here I have is a 16 or an 18 it's an 18 RPM motor, 18 revolutions per minute. So there's no bottom to the rod, so the finish is just going to flow around the rod until it starts to harden. If you ever hit this with a torch and you see smoke come off, that means you've smoked your finish, which means that smoke is actually finished. It's going up in the air. You've cooked it. So what you need to do at that point, if you do cook it, is to go over, you have to take it off, but you've cooked some of the finish away. You need to go over and add a little more finish to those spots. So it's a little out of the ordinary for me because I'm doing it from a weird angle. I've never done it from down here before. But what I'm going to do is go up the entire rod again and get the under wraps or get the inlays covered. And once that's done, then we'll come back down and I'll go through a couple more little things with you that I look for. And then these rods will sit and spin for about, I'd say probably about 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours.